He had always liked surprises, not the small casual ones, but the kind that made people stop, blink, and laugh all at once. Today he had a plan that was complicated, unusual, and expensive, but he didn't care. The plan was for her, and she deserved something memorable. He was a billionaire, but not the kind who flaunted wealth to impress strangers. His money was meant to create moments, experiences, and memories for the people he cared about. And today he wanted to make her feel like she was the only person in the world. He sat in his office looking out at the city. The skyline glowed in the morning light, a mixture of gold and gray. The city buzzed, people hurried to work, drivers honked impatiently, and life moved in a rhythm that he usually avoided. Today he was part of that rhythm in a way. He had arranged 4 cars to meet her at the same place at the same time, but each car had a different route. Each car carried a piece of the plan. He smiled, thinking about how unpredictable life could be and how the unpredictability made moments like this unforgettable. He called his assistant first. The voice on the other end was calm, precise, the perfect partner for handling logistics. "Everything ready?" he asked. "Yes, sir," came the reply. "All cars are fueled, drivers briefed. The routes are set and we've accounted for traffic patterns. Estimated time of arrival is perfect. She will have no idea," he laughed softly. "Good. Make sure everything stays coordinated. I want this flawless." There was a pause. "Understood." He hung up and leaned back in his chair. He thought about her. She was sitting somewhere across the city, completely unaware of the elaborate plan that had been set in motion. She had called him last night to talk about a book she had read, and he had laughed at the way she described the characters. He loved the way her eyes lit up when she talked about things she cared about. She wasn't interested in wealth, luxury, or fancy surprises. That was what made this challenge exciting. The gesture had to be extraordinary, yet feel effortless and natural. He turned to the first car waiting outside. The driver was someone he trusted completely, a man who had been with him for years, understanding his moods and anticipating his needs. The car gleamed in the morning light, polished to perfection. Inside, the seats were warm and soft, and a small bottle of water sat ready on the console. It was almost ritualistic the way they prepared for every detail. But today, every detail mattered more than ever. The second car was parked around the corner, waiting to merge into the plan seamlessly. It was a different make and model, sleek and fast, with tinted windows that hid the occupants inside. The driver in that car had instructions to follow a separate route, one that might take longer if needed, but had to arrive at the meeting point at exactly the right time. Timing was everything. He thought about the irony. Money could buy luxury, but time could not be controlled. All he could do was plan, anticipate, and adjust as things unfolded. The third and fourth cars were equally prepared. Each had a different driver, different routes, different contingencies. He had thought about roadblocks, unexpected delays, and even the tiniest chance that something could go wrong. He loved challenges, but today was different. Today, the challenge was personal. He wanted to see her face light up, to see her laugh and shake her head in disbelief. He looked at his watch. The hour was approaching. He felt a mix of excitement and nerves, something he rarely experienced. In business, he was calm, collected, and confident. But this was different. This was human, real, and unpredictable, and he liked it. The first car started moving. He sat in the back, adjusting the seat slightly, feeling the familiar hum of the engine beneath him. Outside, the city moved past in a blur. People were commuting, walking dogs, hailing taxis, and sipping morning coffee. He watched them, thinking about how each life had its own rhythm, its own story. And today, their story intersected with one person's day, creating a memory that would last far longer than any traffic jam or business deal. Meanwhile, the drivers of the other cars were also moving. Each car had a carefully mapped route, avoiding busy intersections, construction zones, and potential accidents. He had thought about it all, hours spent planning every route, every turn, every possible delay, and yet, he knew that real life could never be predicted perfectly. That was the thrill. He picked up his phone and checked in with the other drivers. Each one reported progress. The second car had a minor delay due to traffic, nothing serious but enough to adjust speed. The third car had encountered a slow-moving vehicle, but the driver had skillfully maneuvered around it. The fourth car was ahead of schedule, which meant careful coordination was needed to prevent it from arriving too early. He smiled, feeling a strange mixture of relief and anticipation. Everything was moving according to plan, but only just. The suspense, the unknown, made the entire experience more real. He thought about how much effort went into surprising someone. It wasn't about wealth. It was about thought, planning, and caring. That was what made moments special. As the city passed by, he remembered small details about her. How she preferred quiet places. How she always laughed at the wrong moments. How she had a habit of tapping her fingers when she was nervous. These details had been small, unnoticed by others, but he remembered them. They were the pieces that made this plan feel personal, intimate, and meaningful. Money and cars were impressive, yes, but they would mean nothing without that human connection. Halfway through the journey, the first car slowed slightly at an intersection. A delivery truck blocked the lane, forcing a temporary stop. The driver remained calm, adjusting the car with precision while he watched the city unfold through the window. A momentary delay, but nothing that could ruin the plan. He tapped his fingers lightly on the armrest, thinking about how life had a way of testing even the best-laid plans. In the second car, the driver skillfully navigated around a construction barrier. A minor detour, but one that had to be accounted for in coordination with the others. He adjusted the instructions over the phone, a calm and measured voice giving guidance and encouragement. Each interaction was brief but precise. Every move mattered. The third car passed through a busy street, narrowly avoiding a pedestrian who stepped into the crosswalk unexpectedly. The driver honked gently, smiled apologetically, and moved on. It was these small, unpredictable moments that added tension to the plan, making the final outcome feel even more rewarding. The fourth car sped slightly to adjust for the others. The driver knew the stakes, the importance of timing, and the need for patience. Speed was not everything. Precision mattered. Coordination mattered. Human judgment mattered. Back in the first car, he looked out the window and imagined her reaction. Would she laugh, smile, or pretend to be surprised? Would she understand the effort and thought behind the plan, or simply be amazed by the spectacle? He didn't care which reaction came first, any would be perfect. But he hoped she would see beyond the luxury, beyond the cars, to the thought and care behind it all. The morning passed in a blend of anticipation and careful calculation. Each car moved closer, each driver adjusting to the rhythm of the city and the whims of traffic. He felt alive in a way he rarely did. Business meetings, negotiations, and deals were predictable. This, however, was unpredictable. This was real life, unscripted, and entirely worth the effort. As the first car neared the destination, he could see the skyline of her neighborhood in the distance. Small details became visible. The cafes where people gathered, the familiar street corners, the early risers jogging along the paths. He imagined her leaving the house, noticing nothing out of the ordinary, completely unaware that 4 cars were converging to create a single, unforgettable moment. He took a deep breath. The anticipation was almost unbearable, but it was a good kind of tension, the kind that made hearts beat faster, that made memories sharper. He knew that when it happened, the moment would be electric, and he wanted to be ready, fully present, fully human, and fully invested, and so he leaned back in his seat, feeling the hum of the engine, the warmth of the morning sun, and the quiet thrill of knowing that today he would create something extraordinary, something that would be remembered. Something that was not about wealth or cars or plans, but about the simple, powerful act of making someone feel seen, loved, and surprised in a way they would never forget. The first car rolled steadily through the city streets, moving closer to the destination with every passing minute. The billionaire sat quietly in the back seat, watching life unfold outside the window. People rushed by, unaware of the intricate plan that was taking place around them. He felt a strange mix of calm and excitement, a sense that this day would be remembered long after it ended. In the second car, the driver adjusted the speed, carefully keeping track of the timing. Traffic was heavier than expected, and a construction site slowed them down. The driver tapped on the dashboard, checking the app that tracked every move of the 4 cars. Communication with the first car was constant, short messages of updates and reassurance flowing back and forth. The billionaire, though calm, couldn't help but feel a flicker of concern. Every second counted, and he knew that even small delays could ripple through the plan. Meanwhile, the third car navigated a crowded avenue. Pedestrians moved unpredictably. Bicyclists weaved through traffic, and taxis stopped suddenly in front of them. The driver handled it all with skill, keeping the car steady while following the route that had been mapped out. From the back seat, the billionaire's assistant monitored progress and coordinated with the other drivers, making sure everything stayed on track. It was a dance of precision, timing, and patience. The fourth car moved faster than the others, but the driver was careful not to arrive too early. They passed through quiet streets and busy intersections alike, keeping one eye on the clock and the other on the road. The city seemed alive in a way it rarely did in the early morning hours. The hum of engines, the chatter of people, and the faint smell of fresh bread from a nearby bakery filling the air. Every detail mattered. Every moment counted. As the cars moved, the billionaire reflected on the journey itself. The plan was more than just a surprise, it was a statement. A statement that she mattered enough for him to think about every small detail, to coordinate multiple cars, and to ensure that nothing went wrong. He smiled at the thought of her reaction. Would she laugh? Would she shake her head in disbelief? He didn't know yet, and that uncertainty made it even more exciting. Suddenly, the first car came to a slow stop. A minor accident had blocked the road ahead, causing a backup of vehicles. The driver calmly assessed the situation, taking a deep breath before maneuvering the car onto a side street. The billionaire watched as the city adjusted around them, cars honking, pedestrians walking around the blockage, and life continuing despite the interruption. He realized how unpredictable things could be, no matter how well planned. The second car faced a similar situation. A delivery truck had stopped in the middle of an intersection, forcing the driver to wait. The driver checked the map and adjusted the route, turning down a narrow street that led around the blockage. The billionaire communicated quickly with the driver, giving instructions and encouragement. He felt a surge of respect for the people helping him execute this plan. It wasn't just about money or cars, it was about trust, teamwork, and human judgment. In the third car, a sudden downpour began. Rain fell in sheets, making the road slippery and slowing traffic. The driver switched on the wipers and adjusted speed carefully, navigating through puddles and cautious drivers. The billionaire felt a thrill of tension. The weather was unpredictable, yet part of the experience. Challenges made success sweeter, he thought, and a perfect plan was rarely as satisfying as one that overcame obstacles. The fourth car was almost ahead of schedule. The driver had to slow down to prevent arriving too early. Every street and intersection required attention. Every stoplight had to be timed. The billionaire smiled at the thought of how delicate the balance was. One small mistake could change the timing entirely, but so far the coordination was holding. Back in the first car, he pulled out his phone and checked a live feed of the other cars' locations. Seeing them move in real time, adjusting, rerouting, and staying on track, gave him a sense of reassurance. The system was complex, but it was working. He leaned back and allowed himself a moment of pride, knowing that all the planning and preparation were starting to show results. He thought about her again. She had no idea what was coming. She was probably busy with her morning routine, sipping coffee, checking her messages, and planning her day, completely unaware of the four cars slowly making their way toward her. That image made him smile. Surprises had a unique power, the ability to pause life for a brief moment, to create a memory that lingered long after the moment ended. Traffic in the first car began to clear, and the journey continued smoothly. The driver stayed focused, navigating the streets with skill. They passed familiar neighborhoods, small parks where children played, and streets lined with shops just opening for the day. Every detail was familiar, yet every moment felt special. The billionaire noticed small things he usually ignored: the sound of a bicycle bell, the smell of fresh flowers from a street vendor, the laughter of people walking to work. The world felt alive and vibrant. In the second car, the driver encountered a minor challenge. A cyclist had taken up more space than expected on a narrow street, forcing the car to slow down. The billionaire calmly guided the driver over the phone, suggesting a small detour. The adjustment was quick, but it reminded him how easily plans could change. He appreciated the human element, the instincts, decisions, and reactions that no map or technology could fully predict. The third car, still dealing with rain, approached a busy intersection. Cars slowed, drivers hesitated, and pedestrians moved quickly. The driver handled it all with care, ensuring safety while keeping to the schedule. The billionaire felt a sense of connection to everyone involved. Each person played a role and each decision mattered. The journey was not just about him or the surprise. It was about everyone contributing to the moment that would soon unfold. The fourth car, now perfectly on time, slowed near a quiet street. The driver glanced at the watch, ensuring that the arrival would be synchronized with the others. Timing was precise, and any error could ruin the surprise. The billionaire felt a thrill of anticipation. The final moments of the journey were approaching, and he could almost imagine the look on her face when she saw all four cars together. Halfway through the journey, the first car encountered another obstacle. A delivery van had stopped unexpectedly, forcing a temporary halt. The driver handled it calmly, maneuvering around the van and resuming speed. The billionaire observed everything carefully, appreciating the patience and skill required. Life had a way of testing even the most careful plans, he thought, and overcoming those tests made the success feel even more real. The second car faced a minor traffic jam on a main road. Cars honked, drivers grew impatient, but the team stayed focused. The billionaire guided the driver through a series of turns and narrow streets, making sure they stayed on track. Coordination and communication were key. Every movement mattered. Every adjustment had a purpose. The third car, still in the rain, passed a small park. Children splashed in puddles, unaware of the world around them. The driver smiled briefly at the sight before focusing back on the road. The billionaire felt a sense of calm. Life was unpredictable, but the beauty of it was in the journey, not just the destination. The fourth car waited patiently, engine running smoothly, tires ready for the final stretch. The driver double-checked the route, ensuring that no unexpected obstacles would cause delay. Precision was everything, and patience was just as important. The billionaire appreciated the skill, the coordination, and the effort involved. As the cars moved closer, the billionaire's anticipation grew. He thought about the final moment, the convergence of all four cars, the surprise, and her reaction. He imagined the laughter, the disbelief, and the joy. He knew that the planning, the obstacles, and the coordination would all come together in one unforgettable experience. Traffic began to ease, rain slowed, and the city seemed to open up. The journey, which had started with careful planning and anticipation, was now reaching its final stage. The billionaire felt a thrill of excitement mixed with calm determination. Everything was moving according to plan, and soon the moment would arrive. In the first car, he leaned back, feeling the hum of the engine beneath him. Outside, the city passed in a blur of movement, color, and sound. Life continued, unaware of the small but significant event unfolding within it. The journey was more than a series of movements. It was a story, a human story, full of anticipation, care, and connection. The second car moved smoothly, adjusting speed and following instructions. The third car navigated the final few intersections, careful but efficient. The fourth car, still a little ahead, slowed slightly, ensuring perfect timing. All four cars were now moving toward the same point, each carrying a piece of the plan, each contributing to the moment that was about to happen. The billionaire felt a surge of satisfaction. The journey itself had been a mix of challenges, excitement, and human connection. It was not just about arriving. It was about how the arrival was achieved, the effort behind it, and the care that had gone into every detail. He smiled, knowing that soon all of that effort would be revealed in a single, unforgettable moment. And as the cars moved steadily toward the final point, he realized that the journey, with all its obstacles and adjustments, had been his meaning. The morning had shifted into late hours, but the journey was far from over. The first car, carrying the billionaire, moved cautiously through the city. The streets were busier now, people heading to work or running errands, cars moving in unpredictable patterns. The driver kept a steady hand on the wheel, navigating carefully while listening to the billionaire's instructions over the phone. Every turn, every stoplight, every lane change mattered. Even the smallest mistake could disrupt the timing of the four-car plan. Suddenly, a delivery truck stopped abruptly ahead, blocking the lane. The driver braked, the wheels screeching lightly on the asphalt, and waited for a moment before signaling to move around the vehicle. The billionaire watched through the window, aware of the minor delay. He adjusted the route slightly, coordinating with the other cars so that their synchronization remained intact. In a plan like this, every second counted. Meanwhile, the second car faced a more serious obstacle. A minor accident had occurred on the street, and emergency vehicles were slowing traffic. The driver had to carefully weave through the congested lanes, keeping speed and safety in mind. The billionaire guided them with calm precision, offering alternative routes and encouragement. The tension in his voice was low, but inside, a flicker of worry reminded him that no matter how well you plan, life could always surprise you. In the third car, the weather added another layer of difficulty. The rain had returned, heavier this time, and visibility dropped. Wipers struggled to keep the windshield clear, and puddles formed on the roads, making driving tricky. The driver slowed down, carefully observing other vehicles and anticipating sudden stops. The billionaire knew that delays were inevitable in this car, but he remained calm, understanding that patience and careful decisions were as important as speed. The fourth car, which had been slightly ahead of schedule, encountered a construction site blocking its path. Heavy machinery and workers filled the street, leaving little room to maneuver. The driver carefully navigated the narrow gaps, communicating with the billionaire and the other drivers to ensure no disruptions in the overall timing. Each obstacle, each challenge was a reminder of how unpredictable real life could be, even for the richest and most organized people. As the cars continued, the billionaire reflected on the nature of control. In business, he could often bend circumstances to his favor. But today, control was shared. Traffic, weather, and chance all had a say. He realized that the beauty of this journey was not in controlling every element, but in adapting to each new challenge with calm and focus. That human element, the ability to adjust, to respond, to make choices in the moment, was what made the plan meaningful. Halfway through the journey, the first car slowed again. A pedestrian stepped out unexpectedly, forcing a careful halt. The driver reacted instantly, smoothly avoiding any collision. The billionaire felt a surge of respect for the skill involved. He understood that no amount of planning could replace the human judgment and instinct that carried the plan forward. Every moment, every decision mattered. The second car had another issue. A narrow street became blocked by a delivery van, leaving barely enough room to pass. The driver hesitated for a moment, then carefully maneuvered the vehicle around the obstacle. The billionaire guided them, coordinating with the other cars to keep timing on track. He realized that this was more than just a logistical challenge. It was a test of patience, focus, and calm under pressure. The third car, still dealing with rain, approached a sharp turn on a slippery road. The driver adjusted the speed and carefully guided the car around the bend. The billionaire's heart raced slightly, not with fear but with anticipation. The journey was unpredictable, and yet every decision, every careful maneuver brought them closer to the goal. He felt alive in a way he rarely did in boardrooms or offices. This was real life, raw and immediate. The fourth car, now slightly behind schedule due to the construction delay, increased speed carefully once the path cleared. The driver maintained precision, understanding that arriving too early could ruin the surprise. Coordination and timing were delicate, but the driver remained calm and focused. The billionaire admired the human skill that made the plan succeed. Money could create luxury, but it could not replace judgment, patience, or instinct. By mid-morning, all four cars were approaching the final stretch of the journey, but the challenges were far from over. The first car now faced heavier traffic, with drivers switching lanes unpredictably. The billionaire's instructions were calm, clear, and precise. Take the left here, then follow the alley for a minute. Keep the speed steady, he said, his voice controlled yet slightly tense. The driver nodded, following the directions carefully, weaving through the city streets. The second car encountered an unexpected detour. A main road had been closed due to utility work, forcing the driver to find an alternative route. The billionaire guided them through smaller streets, making quick decisions and adjustments. He felt a thrill of excitement mixed with stress. This was the kind of challenge that tested planning, patience, and adaptability all at once. The third car dealt with another sudden obstacle. A fallen tree branch blocked a sidewalk and part of the street. The driver carefully avoided it, ensuring the safety of the vehicle while maintaining speed. The billionaire watched the city move outside the window, noticing how life continued despite interruptions. People hurried past, unaware of the carefully orchestrated movement of the four cars converging toward one goal. The fourth car had a moment of tension, when another vehicle suddenly cut in front, forcing a hard brake. The driver reacted instantly, preventing any accident while keeping the car on course. The billionaire appreciated these moments, the unpredictability of human behavior, the need for split-second decisions, and the skill it took to maintain control under pressure. Each challenge made the final moment more meaningful, more satisfying. As the journey progressed, the billionaire couldn't help but think about her again. He imagined her day so far, completely unaware of the plan unfolding across the city. Perhaps she had noticed one or two unusual details, luxury cars passing by, a familiar driver waving, but nothing that could hint at the full surprise. The thought made him smile. Surprises had a power unlike anything else. They paused life for a moment, creating a memory that lingered long after. The first car neared a busy intersection. Pedestrians, bicycles, and cars all moved unpredictably. The driver stayed focused, carefully maneuvering through the chaos. The billionaire's instructions were calm, precise. Take the second right, then a quick left after the cafe. Keep the speed steady. Watch the signals closely. Each direction mattered, and each successful maneuver brought them closer to the goal. The second car was navigating a narrow street lined with parked vehicles. A delivery truck had stopped ahead, forcing the driver to adjust. The billionaire's voice over the phone provided reassurance and guidance. Take the alley on the left, it will bypass the block. Stay steady, don't rush. The driver followed exactly, trusting the coordination and the plan that had been meticulously designed. In the third car, the rain began to lighten, but the roads were still slick. The driver slowed slightly, taking no chances. The billionaire leaned back, appreciating the precision, the patience, and the skill that were carrying the plan forward. Every minor obstacle, every sudden challenge, was part of the story, part of the journey that would soon culminate in a memorable surprise. The fourth car had now caught up slightly, maintaining perfect timing with the others. The driver carefully adjusted speed, ensuring that arrival would be synchronized. The billionaire felt a surge of anticipation. Soon all four cars would converge and the surprise would unfold exactly as planned. Every obstacle, every challenge, every human decision had brought them to this point. Midway through this final stretch, the first car faced another minor challenge. A cyclist unexpectedly swerved into the lane, forcing a quick adjustment. The driver reacted instantly, avoiding any collision. The billionaire felt a wave of respect and relief. The journey had tested patience, judgment, and focus, and every small success was a victory in itself. The second car approached a stoplight, which had turned red at just the wrong moment. The driver slowed carefully, waiting for it to change. The billionaire coordinated with the other cars, adjusting timing slightly. Small adjustments, small moments, but they all mattered. The precision required was immense, and yet the journey continued, smooth and controlled despite minor interruptions. In the third car, the rain had slowed to a drizzle, but puddles remained. The driver carefully navigated around them, maintaining focus. The billionaire admired the calm, the patience, and the skill involved. He realized that these challenges, unpredictable and sometimes frustrating, were part of what made the eventual success so rewarding. The fourth car was approaching the convergence point. The driver slowed just enough to match timing with the others. Every second, every turn, every decision mattered. The billionaire felt excitement rise inside him. The culmination of planning, coordination, and human skill was finally within reach. Soon the moment would arrive, the moment when the effort, patience, and care of the entire journey would be revealed in one unforgettable scene. And so, the four cars continued, each facing its own obstacles, each adjusting. The city had begun to hum with the energy of late morning. Streets were busy, sidewalks crowded, and the rhythm of life moved faster than before. The first car, carrying the billionaire, approached the next stretch with careful precision. The driver's hands gripped the wheel firmly, eyes scanning the traffic ahead, ready to respond to every unexpected movement. The billionaire leaned slightly forward, his mind focused on timing, routes, and the final moment that was drawing ever closer. Meanwhile, the second car slowed near a busy intersection. A delivery truck had stopped suddenly, forcing a pause in traffic. The driver quickly adjusted, taking a small side street to bypass the obstacle. The billionaire communicated over the phone calmly, giving directions that required split-second judgment. Each adjustment was small, but each mattered. Coordination had become more than a plan. It was a live performance, with each car acting in perfect synchronization. The third car navigated through a narrow street lined with parked vehicles. Rain had cleared, but the roads were still damp, reflecting sunlight in uneven patterns. The driver remained cautious, anticipating sudden stops or swerves from other drivers. The billionaire watched from his first car, noting every movement, every adjustment. The thrill of the journey was no longer just about reaching the destination. It was about how every moment unfolded with patience, skill, and human judgment. The fourth car moved carefully but steadily, keeping pace with the others. Timing was crucial now. Even a small delay or advance could disrupt the synchronization. The driver communicated quietly with the billionaire, confirming positions and estimated arrival times. Each word, each calculation mattered. Every car was a piece of a complex puzzle, and the final picture was almost ready to reveal itself. As the first car slowed at a traffic light, the billionaire glanced out the window and imagined her day so far. Perhaps she had already left the house. Maybe she had walked past streets where one of the cars had already passed. She had no idea what was coming. The thought made him smile quietly. Surprises had a subtle power, the ability to pause life for a moment to make ordinary moments extraordinary. He wanted her to feel that. The second car now faced a new challenge. A narrow street had been blocked by road work. The driver had to back up slightly, then take an alternate route, weaving through side streets with precision. The billionaire guided him calmly, offering instructions that required quick thinking but also trust in the driver's instincts. Each car was navigating its own unique challenges, yet all were moving toward the same goal. The synchronization was almost perfect, but the human element, the decisions made in the moment, kept the plan alive and unpredictable. In the third car, the driver encountered a group of children crossing the street near a school. Slowing down, the driver waited patiently, allowing the group to pass. The billionaire watched and smiled. These small moments, interruptions, and pauses were what made the journey feel alive. They reminded him that despite planning, life had its own rhythm. The thrill was in adapting and responding and in continuing toward the goal without losing focus. The fourth car, slightly ahead, now had to slow for an elderly pedestrian who crossed unexpectedly. The driver eased the vehicle, giving space and waiting for the person to pass. The billionaire thought about human unpredictability, how no matter how much planning, no one could anticipate every movement, every choice. And yet that unpredictability made the moment they were working toward feel even more alive. As the first car approached a small park, he noticed people jogging, dogs being walked, and street vendors setting up their stalls. The streets felt alive, ordinary, yet somehow the contrast of their planned journey made the city seem more vibrant. Every detail mattered now. The timing of turns, the speed of each car, the coordination of stops. Each minor obstacle, each unpredictable moment was part of the rhythm that would lead to the final surprise. Meanwhile, the second car navigated a roundabout, slowing for traffic but staying on course. The driver's focus was intense, adjusting in real time to the movement of other vehicles. The billionaire monitored progress, giving directions with calm authority. Even small errors could ripple through the plan, but so far the team had stayed precise. The tension added a layer of excitement he could almost feel physically. The third car approached a busy intersection where a traffic light had turned red at just the wrong moment. The driver slowed, waiting patiently while communicating adjustments to the other cars. The billionaire appreciated this pause. In a way, each small challenge had been part of the story, part of the journey that made the final moment more meaningful. He felt his excitement building as they moved closer. The fourth car was nearing a small square. The driver carefully navigated around parked cars and pedestrians, ensuring arrival would be perfectly timed. The billionaire felt a surge of anticipation. Soon all four cars would converge. Soon the plan would be complete. He imagined her reaction, her surprise, her laughter, her disbelief. He hoped she would see beyond the cars, beyond the planning, to the care that had gone into this moment. As the cars moved closer to the meeting point, the billionaire began to notice small coincidences along her likely path. A neighbor waved, a dog barked at the passing cars, and street vendors glanced curiously at the luxury vehicles. These ordinary people had no idea they were part of a carefully orchestrated event. The billionaire smiled at the randomness of life, knowing that small, unpredictable details often made memories even stronger. The first car now slowed at another light. The driver was aware that timing was crucial. Every instruction from the billionaire was precise, every adjustment minor but necessary. Outside, the city moved in its usual rhythm, unaware of the approaching moment that would briefly pause reality for one person. In the second car, a small delay caused by a delivery truck required a quick reroute. The driver acted instantly, following new instructions and communicating with the other cars. The billionaire's voice remained calm, steady, and reassuring. Even in tense moments, he knew that maintaining composure was essential. The human element, the ability to respond calmly under pressure, was what made the plan succeed. The third car moved past a small cafe where morning customers sat outside, sipping coffee. The driver navigated carefully, maintaining timing despite the busy environment. The billionaire watched the scene with amusement. Life continued, ordinary and unpredictable, while their carefully orchestrated journey advanced steadily. It was the contrast between the ordinary and the extraordinary that made the surprise so powerful. The fourth car slowed as it approached a crosswalk crowded with pedestrians. The driver waited patiently, then carefully continued once the path was clear. Timing was delicate, but coordination was precise. The billionaire felt a thrill building inside him. Soon everything would align. Soon all four cars would be in position, and the moment he had planned for so long would arrive. Back in the first car, he reflected on the journey so far. Obstacles, delays, and surprises had tested patience and coordination, but they had also made the experience richer. The journey itself had become part of the story, the challenges, the decisions, and the human responses all contributing to a moment that would soon unfold. He smiled quietly, thinking about how these challenges had made him feel more connected to the people involved, to the city, and to the experience itself. The second car moved past a small market. Vendors glanced curiously at the approaching vehicle. The driver stayed focused, weaving through narrow lanes and maintaining the timing. The billionaire noted the human reactions around them, small glimpses of curiosity and attention that added life to the plan. It was these small details that made the journey feel real and human, not just a calculated execution. The third car approached another roundabout. The driver adjusted speed, carefully observing other vehicles. A cyclist suddenly appeared, forcing a slight swerve. The driver reacted instantly, avoiding any collision while keeping the car on course. The billionaire's heart raced slightly, not with fear but with excitement. Every challenge had been met, and every decision had brought them closer to the final goal. The fourth car slowed slightly as a pedestrian crossed near the entrance to a small park. The driver waited, then carefully moved forward once the path was clear. Timing was now delicate, coordination crucial. The billionaire felt the tension and anticipation building. Soon, the four cars would converge, and the moment would arrive. As they drew closer to the final destination, the billionaire imagined her noticing hints of something unusual. Perhaps she had glimpsed one of the luxury cars earlier, or noticed a strange coincidence on her way. Maybe she had started to feel curiosity, an unexplained anticipation. The thought made him smile. The surprise had to feel natural, effortless, yet unforgettable. The first car moved steadily, navigating the final few intersections. The driver was focused, hands steady on the wheel, eyes sharp. The billionaire communicated instructions calmly, adjusting slightly to account for traffic. Every movement mattered. Every minor delay had to be balanced against the progress of the other cars. The second car now adjusted speed, slowing slightly to synchronize perfectly with the first. The driver followed instructions carefully, aware of the delicate balance required. The billionaire felt a mixture of excitement and calm. Soon, the city streets stretched ahead, busy and alive, but something was about to change. The first car slowed as it neared the final area, the familiar neighborhood where she lived. The driver's eyes scanned carefully, adjusting speed, observing pedestrians and parked vehicles, ensuring that every movement aligned with the timing of the other cars. The billionaire sat quietly in the back, anticipation rising in his chest. This was the moment they had all been working toward. The moment when planning, patience, and human skill would culminate in something unforgettable. Meanwhile, the second car moved carefully through the surrounding streets, slightly behind schedule but adjusting with precision. The driver followed the instructions, taking a narrow alley to synchronize with the others. Every second mattered now. The billionaire's calm voice on the phone guided the driver like a conductor guiding an orchestra. He understood that coordination was fragile at this stage. Any small error could disrupt the harmony of the moment. The third car moved closer, navigating side streets and adjusting for traffic. The rain had stopped completely, leaving the roads wet but manageable. The driver maintained steady focus, adjusting each turn to stay in perfect timing. The billionaire leaned forward slightly, watching the city pass by and imagining her reaction. He pictured her stepping outside, noticing the 4 cars approaching, her expression a mix of surprise and disbelief. He smiled quietly to himself. The 4th car, now almost in position, slowed slightly to allow synchronization with the others. The driver carefully matched the timing, ensuring that the arrival would appear seamless. The billionaire felt a surge of excitement. Soon, all 4 cars would be visible at once, and the carefully orchestrated plan would come together in one unforgettable scene. The tension, the anticipation, and the thrill of human coordination made every second feel electric. As the first car moved closer to the meeting point, the billionaire considered the human side of the surprise. This was not about luxury or extravagance. It was about thought, care, and effort. Every minor adjustment, every route change, and every coordination effort reflected the care he had put into making this a special moment. The money and cars were only tools. The real value lay in the attention, the timing, and the personal touch. The second car approached a small roundabout. The driver had to slow for other vehicles, but the billionaire adjusted the instructions instantly, finding a route that would maintain timing with the 1st and 4th cars. Small challenges like this made the moment feel alive, unpredictable, and deeply human. It reminded him that the journey was just as important as the final surprise. The 3rd car navigated past a cafe where morning customers were enjoying their coffee. The driver slowed slightly, careful not to draw attention but keeping the timing precise. The billionaire felt a mix of calm and excitement. Soon the surprise would reveal itself, and he imagined her face lighting up, her laughter echoing, and the disbelief in her eyes. Every obstacle, every small adjustment, had brought them closer to this human, unforgettable moment. The 4th car, moving carefully toward the square where the meeting point awaited, adjusted speed once again. Timing was delicate. A few seconds too soon or too late would change the entire effect. The driver communicated with the other cars, keeping everything perfectly synchronized. The billionaire's pulse quickened. He knew that all the planning, patience, and coordination was about to pay off. Suddenly, the 1st car turned the corner, catching the first glimpse of the meeting point. The street was quiet now, a small area lined with trees and shops. The billionaire's eyes scanned carefully, noticing small details: parked vehicles, pedestrians walking past, and the light reflecting on windows. Everything had to be perfect. He adjusted his posture, ready for the final approach. The 2nd car now moved through a narrow street, carefully avoiding pedestrians and parked vehicles. The driver communicated briefly with the billionaire, confirming position and speed. Each minor adjustment was critical. The suspense was building, and the human effort required to maintain coordination was at its peak. Every action mattered. Every decision counted. In the 3rd car, the driver carefully followed the mapped route, navigating small streets and side alleys. The billionaire watched through the window, noting how the city seemed ordinary and busy, completely unaware of the approaching spectacle. The contrast between ordinary life and the extraordinary surprise heightened the thrill. Soon all 4 cars would converge, and the culmination of human effort, patience, and coordination would create a moment she would never forget. The 4th car approached the final stretch, slowing slightly to maintain perfect timing with the others. The driver adjusted the steering gently, positioning the vehicle exactly where it needed to be. The billionaire felt the tension and excitement building inside him. Every obstacle had been overcome. Every delay had been accounted for, and now the moment of truth was near. From inside the 1st car, he imagined her noticing hints of something unusual. Perhaps she had seen a luxury vehicle pass by earlier, or noticed a subtle coincidence that didn't make sense. Maybe she had felt a strange sense of anticipation she couldn't explain. The thought made him smile quietly. The surprise had to feel natural yet extraordinary. It had to be a memory she would remember forever. The 2nd car arrived at a small street near the meeting point, slowing just enough to synchronize perfectly with the 1st. The driver made precise adjustments, aware that even a minor misalignment could reduce the effect. The billionaire felt a sense of satisfaction. All the challenges, obstacles, and human decisions had brought them here. Soon, they would all converge. The third car carefully maneuvered past pedestrians and other vehicles, maintaining timing with the first two cars. The billionaire felt anticipation rise in his chest. He imagined her expression, her eyes widening, a laugh escaping, and a moment of disbelief as she realized what had been orchestrated for her. The thought made his heartbeat quicken, a mix of excitement and nervousness. The fourth car, now perfectly positioned, slowed slightly to align with the others. Timing was flawless. Coordination was complete. The billionaire allowed himself a moment of satisfaction, knowing that the human effort, patience, and skill involved had created the perfect setup. Soon the surprise would unfold, and the story they had been building would come alive. She stepped outside, drawn by a small noise or perhaps a subtle hint she had noticed earlier. The street appeared ordinary at first glance, but her attention was drawn to the sleek vehicles moving carefully in the distance. Her eyes widened slightly as she realized there were 4 cars, each perfectly positioned, each part of a coordinated plan. She stopped for a moment, unsure if she was seeing things correctly. The first car approached, the driver maintaining steady control. The billionaire leaned slightly forward, catching the first glimpse of her reaction. She seemed surprised, her expression a mix of disbelief and amusement. That was exactly what he had hoped for. He smiled quietly, feeling a sense of triumph that wasn't about money, cars, or power, but about creating a human moment of joy and surprise. The second car moved into position, slightly behind the first. The coordination was seamless and the visual effect was striking. She looked around, noticing the precision, the timing, and the thought that had gone into this moment. Her lips curved into a smile, a mixture of wonder and laughter. She couldn't believe the effort that had gone into this. The third car arrived, completing the visual setup. The synchronization was perfect. The billionaire watched as her expression shifted from surprise to amusement, and then to heartfelt appreciation. Every minor obstacle, every adjustment, and every decision along the journey had been worth it. The human effort was visible, and she recognized it even without knowing the full extent of the planning behind it. The fourth car, finally, rolled into position, completing the coordinated scene. She stepped back slightly, taking in the entire sight. Her laughter escaped, genuine and warm. She shook her head as if in disbelief. It was a moment that paused time, a memory that would linger far beyond the city streets or the luxury vehicles. It was human, personal, and unforgettable. The billionaire stepped out of the first car, walking toward her with a calm smile. He didn't need to say much. The visual impact, the effort, and the anticipation had spoken for themselves. She looked at him, eyes sparkling with a mixture of surprise and amusement, and he felt a warmth inside him. This was what he had wanted all along, a moment that felt personal, thoughtful, and human. She laughed softly, shaking her head. "I can't believe you did all this," she said, gesturing toward the 4 cars. "All this for me?" He smiled, shrugging slightly. "You're worth it," he replied simply. It wasn't about grandeur or luxury. It was about showing care, attention, and thought. Every obstacle they had overcome, every decision made along the journey had led to this moment. And now, standing here, it felt perfect. For a few minutes, they simply stood there, taking in the scene. The city continued around them, ordinary and busy, but for them, time had paused. The 4 cars, carefully coordinated, were not just vehicles. They were symbols of effort, thought, and human connection. She understood that, and her smile reflected it. The billionaire gestured toward the cars. "I wanted it to be memorable. Not just the cars or the planning, but